Hey guys, so I have a special guest on my show. His name is Reggie. He has this excellent channel in which he invites people on the streets of New York to sing. It doesn't matter what level they are. He just invites them over and he could play whatever song that they want.
And I have the bottle in here for the thumbnail.
Yeah, and explain.
Yeah, well, for a thumbnail, you need colors. I'm a black man in a black shirt. That's not colors. I would have worn my red shirt, but I forgot it. So I was just like, I didn't think of it till last minute. But I'm like, I painted the room, and I have this.
Just
So
just just
I
for
think
this
I think we have
interview.
enough. Just for the, just for you, Leon. I appreciate it. So I'm not sponsored by Tsao.
So Reggie, can you tell us like what inspired you to do this work?
Hey, have you ever sung in the shower?
Of course, I love singing.
Awesome. What's your nationality?
My background's Taiwanese.
I heard they love to sing. I mean, obviously everywhere, but in Taiwan, it's very common to just be singing
Right, yeah.
outside. Is that true?
I think there's a lot of people there who like to sing, yes.
Okay, great, great. Well, tell them all I said Japabwe.
You got it. And that means have you eaten yet?
Right,
Yeah,
right,
these people
exactly.
back then didn't have a lot of food, so that's the way they greet each other.
Yeah, yeah. It has a history of I guess there's negative side where it's like not everyone ate, but the positive side is like it's always like the greeting is checking in on each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is a
yeah.
special way to check in on each other. Mm.
True, true, true. So to answer your question, um, I asked if you like to sing in the shower because so many people say, "Oh, I only sing in the shower." I think a shower is a place where you really don't have much else to do but connect to the things that you really want in life,
Yeah.
and a song comes out because it speaks to who we are.
Mm.
And not only that, it also just kind of sounds good in there.
Right.
So yeah, if I can make outside on the street as comfortable as someone is in the shower, then I feel like I pulled them into something really nice, and I'm just addicted to doing that. Just
Just wonderful.
pulling them into a nice experience where they can go from feeling uncomfortable to comfortable and really expressing themselves. So
Yeah.
that's what inspired me.
Yeah, and one thing like I noticed in your videos is that you like to be able to tell people, I'm not looking for talent, I'm looking for bravery. So yeah, it's and after they start singing, you ask them how they feel and they just feel like really great when they sing. Mm.
It's so true, so true. And what's funny is that in the first time I did Sing With Me for free on video, I didn't ask that question. At
Mm.
least not the first person. Because I kind of knew the answer, but at the same time, um, I realized there's more to answer in that question. How do you
Right.
feel? So
Mm.
I started asking people, and sometimes I get the whole spectrum of feelings. It
Right.
starts out with them saying, "Oh, when I started out, I was so nervous. I thought everyone was looking at me, but now I feel loose and relaxed." And there's
Mm.
this whole, progression of emotion that they go through, and people were volunteering this information. So I was like, "Well, what about all the people that didn't say anything? I should ask them." So from
Mm.
then on, I started asking people, "How do you feel?" And that's been in every video ever since.
Wow. Yeah, that's really special. And this is the question because I work as a psychotherapist. This is one that I ask, and that question like invites a lot of depth. So that's what I like about the work that you do is like it's a lot of fun, it's entertaining, but there's also like a lot of emotional depth behind it too.
Hmm. As a psychologist, were you attracted to just the depth of people's emotions?
Yes. Yeah, I love people's stories. I think what I like most about my work as a psychotherapist is just like genuine connection. That takes precedence over any technical skill. So can you tell me like when did you get started with this?
I always tried to get people involved in music,
Hmm.
but I didn't film it until 2018. Yeah. So in 2018, I was taking a course at Landmark. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys, but they
Yes,
do like
I have.
self-development stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you taken courses there too?
No, I went to one of their intro sessions.
Right. Cool, cool, cool. So I was taking courses there, and there was a part that was just really about listening to people
Mm,
and really being a stand for whatever it is they want to achieve in life. And that really spoke to me. And I always thought about asking people to sing, and I've done it a lot. I just never filmed it. I was just like, well, since I like doing it so much, I was just like, what if I just asked my cousin to hold the phone and film it? And he
mm,
did, and I thought it would go viral overnight. And I was almost sure it was. I even edited it the same night
wow.
up until midnight, and I just uploaded it. I went to sleep, and I was gonna like, I was thinking the next day I would come to my computer and be 2 million views, but it wasn't even more than 100 views. And uh, for my channel at the time, that wasn't great.
Mhm,
But I was like, well, there's something really special about what's happening. And I'm not judging it by watching the video, I'm judging it by the comments.
right.
With even 100 views, there were like 10 comments that people were saying, oh my goodness, I've never seen something like this. This is amazing. I feel so much better after watching. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I thought that the transformation only happened with the person singing, but it turns out it's happening also to the person watching.
Yeah.
So that was the big surprise for me. So, in my opinion, at the time, I said, if people have this experience watching it, then this could be my calling. This
Mhm,
could be something that I should keep going with.
mhm.
And so I just kept going with it. Yeah. And it
Beautiful.
didn't really take off like audience wise until much later, but I
Yeah.
think I think I just because like there's so many things that I could do with music. Like the most obvious path is to try to be a rock star.
Hmm.
And I just kind of looked at what is the biggest impact I could make. And once I saw those comments, I was thinking maybe this is it.
Yeah. You had like an intuition about it. I think music is a very special kind of gift, and I think I appreciate the way that you've chosen to channel it. You really paid attention to the quality of the experience that you're providing for other people.
Thanks. Yeah. It's funny you say about the quality of the experience. Even though this is something that I kind of felt like was coming from just improvising, asking people to sing, there, after watching myself do it so many times, I noticed what kind of questions and what kind of disposition I have that leads to the best possible transformative results for the person.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was even more pushy and I didn't let them talk as much. I didn't necessarily think it was a conversation to have, but over time, when the conversation developed naturally or when I was curious
Hmm.
about them, I just noticed how them talking just helped to ease them a lot.
Yeah.
It's like someone, maybe they start to see me as someone who's interested in who they are,
Hmm.
therefore wouldn't judge them for how they sound.
Right.
And I was like, I think this is how you do that. So the development of it, obviously the technical side has developed massively, but a lot of the development is how can I be who this person needs right now?
Right. That's really fascinating. So when you're developing this, you're kind of following this idea of how can I be genuine to the people who I invite, right? And then so you've kind of just follow along that path, and you realize like when you ask for people's feelings, when you provide space for them, that allows for that for them to really show and express themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So this thing you have been doing for quite a while in different kind of locations. What are some interesting things that you have noticed?
Between locations,
Yes. Hmm.
I would say that my expectation of what will happen in each location has been definitely not met sometimes and very much met other times. I think probably the most interesting place I ever asked people was Istanbul,
Wow.
Turkey.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was like episode 4, I think, or episode 5 or something. Apparently, they don't have free speech there, so pretty much everyone's afraid of cameras.
Hmm.
And so, getting someone to sing on camera was just. It was more so the absolute skepticism as to why I was walking around with a camera.
Hmm.
Seems like everyone there knows not to do that. Uh, And but I did get people to sing, so that was great.
Mm.
And when I went to Germany, it was the same thing, but slightly different. It's not that they didn't have free speech. It's just that they had the freedom to not be filmed. It's not. It's completely impolite to bring a camera in front of someone's face or in front of in the vicinity of anyone who hasn't consented to being filmed. And it's actually against the law. Not just impolite. So if you took a selfie and someone was in it, and they feel like they could have been on camera, they could approach you and ask you to delete it. They're well within the law to do that there, as far as I understand it. So that was one of the more interesting experiences. And if you check the Germany video, you can see that everyone who I asked to sing actually sang, but that's only because I didn't include any no's. Because if someone said no and they're in the video, they yeah, they that wouldn't work. I mean, not to say that well, I would say there was a fair bit of no's and a fair bit of yeses there. What was funny is that the hardest place to get people to sing was Sarasota, Florida.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that place, Sarasota, Florida?
Vaguely.
It's very much a retired town,
Hmm.
and I can come up with a number of reasons why people didn't want to sing. But I guess what I just go toward is just maybe they just kind of I don't know, they've had many great experiences and they just don't feel like they need this. That's fine.
Mm.
But there are people who did sing and it was a really great time with them.
Hmm.
And then there's people who not everyone always feels good after singing. Some people cry.
Hmm.
It might be re-traumatizing for them. It happened before,
Mm.
or one girl had a panic attack after singing, but that's, I would say, 0.01% of the results. Most people feel a lot better. And there are people who ask me not to post the video. I gotta respect that, even if they did a great job. Uh, I just won't post it. So there's about something like 3% of the guests that we filmed actually went up on YouTube. So I'm no stranger to just leaving the experience as the experience. It doesn't always have to be a video.
Right. Yeah. Well, I like that attitude. It's like not forcing anything, right? Just like
Right.
if people feel comfortable, it's a non-judgmental space where if you feel comfortable, you could sing, and it's really up to them. My next question is like, what are some like really interesting experiences that you've encountered?
So we were in Washington D.C. and while we were filming, there was a bomb scare. So we, without knowing why, we like all on the camera. You could see you could see police officers shooing everyone away.
Wow.
And it's funny because he didn't tell it to us, only the people that you could see on camera. And it was just strange because we were just wondering, why is this guy shooing everyone away? But it turns out that the vicinity that he was blocking off was a pretty perfect amount of feet away from where they thought the bomb was. So they probably would have just left us there until the radius increased, and then they told us we have to leave, and then that's when we left. And it turns out it wasn't a bomb at all. It just was someone with a car that was really full and it looks like bombs, and it wasn't anything. So that was cool. But in the meantime, we talked to this officer who we kind of made friends with, and she didn't sing, but I sang a song to her, so that was pretty cool. I also went to the Trump protest,
Mhm.
and it's funny because there's a really viral video where it was filmed right after the protest. No one knows that the protest happened right before it. We just happened to be there, and you could never tell. But it was interesting because I wanted to be at a place like that because I wanted to just humanize all, like, any side. I'm sure
Right.
there's people
Right.
there that were for him and people there that were against him. If I could just kind of calm people down and just we all sing a song,
Yeah.
that's that that'll be really great. And that's kind of what happened. I came at the tail end of it.
I remember, so I did play a little bit of music in the subways. I play guitar and I sing, and it was like a really rainy day, I think. And my friend said like, oh, you shouldn't go, right? But actually, it would turn out to be like the best day to go. Like when it's raining, because people are like in kind of a sad mood. They're also like
Mm.
stressed out. So like when it's really nice to see the smiles, like when you play for them.
Awesome. Yes, I agree. I agree. I like to go when it snowed and rained and things like that. When I was busking for cash, it wasn't just because of how it uplifted people. It was also because if it's raining, they're probably not going anywhere, so they're probably not spending any money, which means they have more money to give me.
Right.
So that was kind of the logic behind that. You know what's funny? I played the subway for years, and I just sometimes I was in and out of being in tune with the people's response to it, because it was a situation where I was doing it to survive and just make money, and there were times where I wasn't always in tune with the effect, but many times I was, and that's where I learned so much about how people light up when they sing. I remember going to from car to car, and it was the day that I kind of made enough money where I didn't really need that much more,
Right.
and my plan was just to try to get the whole car to sing, and it worked sometimes. It worked. It didn't work other times. I remember this one lady just sat there, and she started singing. And after she sung one line, she looked around to see if anyone else was singing, and no one else was singing. So she kind of shut down, just stopped. And I was like, "Listen, you don't need anyone else to sing with you. You can just sing." But she didn't. She didn't do it because she felt like she was the first one, and she didn't feel comfortable. And I kind of learned something about human behavior at that point, because it wasn't it was some, I was intending to do a train sing along. It wasn't about me and her in that moment. So she didn't feel comfortable after a while when she realized that this moment that was intended to be a group thing became a her thing, because it just was the wrong expectation. So um, yeah, I walked away feeling like I failed, but then I just thought about it. I was like, well, it kind of makes sense. Like you wouldn't, you know what? Not everyone wants to be the first and only person dancing at the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's a situation where it's just me and that person in a corner and we're dancing kind of just by ourselves, then that's cool. And that's kind of the vibe I want to create with someone when I'm out there. Even when there's a big crowd out, I remind them sometimes, especially when they say, "Oh, the people are waiting." I don't know. I don't know what to pick. I say, "Don't worry about the people. It's just me and you." Just me and you. And
Oh,
they wind
wow.
up feeling way more.
Interesting.
They wind up feeling way more comfortable when I tell them that. Just act
Yeah.
like they're not there. And when I'm out and there's a crowd of people, I don't say, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next person we have is it." None of that. And I've done that for years as a showman, but I realized that it's just way more comfortable for the person if I don't do that, because the whole point of it is just to make them forget that there's people there. It's just me and you.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's really interesting, and we all learn through trial and error. Like
yeah.
I think it's like the willingness to go out and try. Like you wanted to have people express themselves and while singing, but like you have to kind of like figure out like what's the way to be able to encourage them to do so. And you kind of been able to find that way over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. What's like maybe some like really meaningful experiences that you've had that you can look back to and say, well, that was like something that really touched me in a way
It sounds corny, but every time it
every time.
feels meaningful.
Yeah.
Every time it feels meaningful. And you know what I would say? I would say that there's people who have sung with me who I could kind of feel like they felt ignored for a lot of their life,
Hmm.
and someone just paying attention to them made a difference for them. It just made them feel better.
Right.
Um, yeah, including especially if they're homeless, or they're poor, or they have like a disease or something that everyone can see, like some kind of crazy skin disease, or if they're just like disfigured or something like that.
Right.
Their experience probably is of people who look at them but don't acknowledge them.
Mm.
And over here, it doesn't matter as long as you say yes. I'll try to take good care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, you can see one on video where this person, there was nothing physically wrong with him where you'd think that he was being isolated, but he did share that he's retired. he's in this place called Sarasota, and he's kind of been just walking around, just not really, just kind of feeling like he's just like letting time go by.
Mhm.
But the fact that I let him sing and I played for him, it just made his whole time there. And yeah, that video got millions of views. And there's so many people who said things like that to me. And like I said, only a small percent actually make it to a video. But there's every time I feel I've helped someone feel acknowledged, that's very meaningful.
Yeah, beautiful. So you mentioned about these people who feel like they're ignored or they're not seen, and it's kind of like a way for to them to be given the spotlight. A spotlight in a way where people could see the human in them.
If I'm playing to my strengths, I'm noticing why do I like to do certain things? It's because it leaves an impression on others, and I just like doing that a lot.
Hmm.
And as long as I keep connecting to that thing and just being honest with like my motive and my intentions and what I'm in it for, I can lean into that and still do great things otherwise. Like for example, well, okay, let me take you back a little bit. When I was 13 years old, I learned how to program computers. I always wanted to be a game developer. So between 13 years old and 16 years old, I was programming like all the time. You couldn't get me off the computer. I was coding constantly. Around when I was 16, I guess I started to become more social because I started going to public school. I was homeschooled before that.
Hmm.
And by that time I already learned how to play guitar. I already learned how to play it. And I just noticed how much of an immediate reaction you can get from someone by playing guitar versus by coding for 3 months to show everyone this program that you made.
Mm.
It was just like so much easier. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to be a programmer anymore because it doesn't really play to my strength.
Right.
And if I'm being honest with myself, I only wanted to code because I thought it was really impressive to come up with like this game that was cool. So let me just stop, and I just completely stopped.
Yeah.
And from then on, I just pursued music. I was an artist too. I was doing art a lot. I was going for hyper realistic figure drawings, and I also noticed that I was doing it for years and years and years, not necessarily because of the love of the art, but because it was really impressive to show people a well done piece and how they lit up and stuff.
Mhm.
And I would say playing to my strength involved just realizing what I was in it for and just doing music because that was the easiest way to
Mm.
do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. You experimented with different things, but it's like there's a way that when you use music, you feel like you connect with people in a different way than in these other ways.
Yeah, there's so much you can do on stage. There's so much you can say. And I actually taught performance coaching for a bit. It was a career kind of thing that I was doing. It's funny because it was that whole career move was inspired by one video that I saw where the guy was talking about what do you say when you're on stage? Like, what is it that you say? And he says people get this wrong so many times. They talk about their song. They would say, "Oh, this song, it was inspired by this time I went to this place and that place and blah 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 blah." And he basically said, when you talk about your song, it's not about how it inspired you. It's more about what would inspire them.
Right. Yeah.
So really, your job as a person who introduces your song is someone who can help the audience relate to something about the song that they've experienced.
Right.
So I took that philosophy and ran with it. I made a whole curriculum about performance coaching that really focused on having people feel acknowledged and having people feel, spoken to when an artist sings on stage or when an artist speaks on stage, I'll say.
Right.
Because like that's really at the core of so much music. Like you listen to a sad song, maybe because you felt that way before, or because you want to feel that way and you haven't. And it's like it gives you access to a spectrum of emotions. You know what I'm saying? I did performance coaching with a whole curriculum for a while, and I was really really focused on having the artists be less self-centered and really audience centered. And I even redefined so many terms that people use when it comes to stage performance. And I just made a whole curriculum about it. I don't even know how I got on this, but what did you ask me again?
Well, yeah, I find that to be really fascinating. It's like there's a subtle difference of influence on others. One is to make a big impression on them, and the other one is
Right.
to focus on the other. When we kind of have more of that service-oriented role, we kind of feel less like self-conscious, more in the zone when you have that focus on the service to others.
Yeah, and it does speak to human purpose as well, because you could see the most egocentric people and they might not be happy, you know?
It's true.
And maybe they just got it all wrong. Maybe they confused being celebrated by people as a source of happiness. I think being celebrated, being a celebrity in certain ways, it's kind of like a drug.
Mm.
Yes, it makes you feel good, but it doesn't fill the hole inside.
Right.
I think the hole inside chemically is the hole inside of you chemically is only it can only be filled by service to others, because that's how the human species has survived for so long. We helped each other a lot.
Right.
And if you're not doing that at all, or if you don't feel like you're doing it, I'll say, because we're all doing it, even just by breathing. Because I mean, we're breathing out carbon dioxide, plants are inhaling it, and they're giving us back oxygen, right? You helping people by being alive, right? But if you feel like the net of what you do is not in favor of others, that could lead to some kind of void that you might not be aware of why that void is there, but you
Yeah.
just might feel unhappy.
It's
So
noticeable too. Like personally, I recognize it myself. Like when I'm like shifted towards myself, there's more of that hole, and when it's on others, it kind of like is it's not relevant anymore.
yeah, exactly. And you're busier when you're helping others, right? So
It's true.
at the very least, you don't have too much time to think about your demons.
All right, Reggie, it's a big pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you.
Hey guys, be sure to check out my website in which I write about matters of mental health and inspiration, and also follow me on Instagram as well.